Hello everyone, how are you doing? I hope you're doing amazing. In this video, I'm gonna provide the correction of the teacher's inter-exam November 2020. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. في هذا الفيديو إن شاء الله غادي نقدم لكم تصحيح ديال الامتحان الكتابي لمباراة التعليم بالتعاقد واللي كان real challenge for all the participants. هاد الفيديو غادي يكون طويل شويه حيت غادي نجاوب فيه على جميع الاسئله ما عدا الرايتين. دونك جيبوا شي حاجه تشربوها وخليكم معايا حتى الاخير الفيديو حيت عندي لكم واحد النصيحه ذهبيه. So let's start. Choose the best answer. Struggling in paragraph 1 means shocking. Exacerbate in paragraph 4 means aggravate. Brought to light in paragraph 5 means exposed. In paragraph 2, 20% refers to the percentage of children affected by school closures in developed countries. In poor societies, the presence of children at home during the pandemic is an additional burden for parents because they have to afford nutrition for them. The pandemic affected trainees in work areas as the situation in work areas was not stable. During the pandemic, some universities had to put off teaching because they lacked the necessary tools and resources. 40% of poor countries couldn't address the needs of children at risk during the pandemic because they ignored these children in their policies. In paragraph 9, $60,000 is the amount of money earned by each child who finishes school. UNESCO estimates that 23.8 million children will not be able to return to school as a result of the economic effects of the pandemic. This text is mainly about the situation of education during and beyond the pandemic. Complete the following sentences with information from the text. About 387 million school children's lack of basic reading skills shows that the world was already facing big challenges in fulfilling the promise of education as a basic human right. In developing countries, children did not benefit from the new modes of instruction because they are not fluent in the language of instruction, and even if they can access content they could understand, they are going to find another problems such as the economic stress and the low education level of parents, especially in digital skills. In Canada, 30% is the approximate percentage of the socio-economic skills gap due to pandemic. Answer this question. Based on the graph, explain the financing gap in education between 2015 and 2020. The financing gap in 2015 was 11%, whereas it reached 29% in 2020. That means that the education financing gap increased between 2015 and 2020 by 18%. Section 2. Language. Choose the correct option. The problem is difficult to under control. The problem is difficult to keep under control. Our teacher, Mrs. Rashidi, wrote our names down on the desks lest she should forget. James lied so many times that we can no longer place any credibility on what he says. Martin Luther King is known for his famous speech, I Have a Dream. Peter's parents died when he was a baby, and he was brought up by his aunt. Bill, have you seen any interesting comedy lately, Nancy? Bill asked Nancy if she had seen any interesting comedy lately. If firefighters hadn't got there on time, the building would have been destroyed. The special news will be brought in an hour or so. That's why it wasn't published in the newspapers yesterday. There were many participants in the conference, weren't there? I really appreciate your helping me at this difficult time. It was a 30-minute TV show, but it was so boring. I met Liz at yesterday's party, but I had known her by sight for years before that. Before his illness, Tony could eat anything, but now he has to be very careful with his diet. Wreckage from the plane was scattered over a wide area. The Smiths enjoyed their stay at the coast of the Black Sea last summer. He was very angry because he couldn't find the report anywhere. Also now here means the same thing, but I don't know if they're gonna count it or not. The lift is out of order, so we'll have to walk up the stairs. James was forced to get off the bus because he couldn't pay the fare. Don't worry, we'll have to wait a little longer because I'm sure he will turn up soon. The teacher should give us more time, otherwise we won't be able to finish all the tasks. In her speech, she expressed her gratitude for all the help she had been given. Excuse me, to whom does that car belong? Most of the telephone lines were destroyed by the storm last night, and so it's almost impossible to get through to anybody today. Most politicians pretend to ignore opinion polls. She always chooses some very pretty wrapping paper for her presents. Section 3. Teaching Methodology. Match each learner to his or her learning style. Rashid always asks his teacher to repeat instructions in the classroom. He also enjoys listening activities and rehearsing English songs at home. Rashid is an auditory learner. Nadia is difficult to control in the classroom. She always moves around and prefers to learn while playing a game. Nadia is a kinesthetic learner. SOUMIA always needs her teacher to show her a picture or two in order to understand better. She always prefers to draw charts and timelines on her language classes. She is usually better at reading comprehension tasks. SOUMIA is a visual learner. Match each of the following classroom activities to its appropriate level of Bloom's taxonomy of learning objectives. In order to shorten the time, I'm gonna give you just the answers. Number 44 is remembering. Number 45, understanding. Number 46, analyzing. Number 47, applying. Fill in the blanks with appropriate words. The first letter of each word is given. The learner's task in the teaching and learning equation is to construct the system of the target language. They have to find and remember how words are joined together and what they mean, how grammatical patterns fit together, and how phonological features such as stress and intonation are used. The system the learner constructs can only emerge gradually. Parts may come from direct, conscious learning of new bits of language, and other may be subconsciously picked up from exposure to the target language. Name the type of the language test used in each situation in the chart. Also here I'm gonna give you just the answers. So 54, placement test. 55, achievement test. 56, diagnostic test. 57, proficiency test. Choose the right answer. In Piaget's theory of learning, when a child is changing his own internal knowledge structures, he is accommodating. In language teaching, an adjacency pair is a sequence of two utterances by two different speakers. In an English language class, clause is used as a testing technique. In the writing process, when a student is asking questions such as, "How can I make this point clear? Is this argument convincing?" he or she is in the stage of revising. Part of a lesson that gives learners the chance to use what they've just learned in simulated real situations is called free practice. The ability to read and speak well and to express oneself without effort is called fluency. In their teacher training program, Jamal and his group were asked to prepare a presentation on language pedagogy. The latter is an area of applied linguistics. Which of the following is the most appropriate technique for a pre-writing activity? The answer is using a graphic organizer to generate ideas. Which of the following is considered contrived or non-authentic materials in a language class? A teacher-prepared dialogue. During our first classroom observation, our host teacher started with an activity in which his students shared their thoughts about the problem of violence at school. This is called brainstorming. In second or foreign language teaching, advocates of the natural approach claim that teachers should allow a silent period which provides the learners with the necessary input before they start producing the language. In her grammar lessons, Betsy prefers to give her students the rules first and then provides them with examples and exercises. She believes that this deductive approach is more suitable for her adult learners. Fill in the chart with the appropriate teacher roles from the list. In his pre-practice teaching period, Mr. Zahiri observed different classes and noticed that teachers adopt different roles. At the end of each class, Mrs. Yusfi would sit down and think about what was successful and what was less successful in her lesson. Here she is, reflector. Mr. Rahmoni walks around in his class and watched his students work in groups. Observer. Ms. Tanjawi mimed a series of actions to help her students understand some action verbs. Here, She is a performer. Mrs. Naji listened carefully to her students, and when they used their native language, she taught them to use the target language. Here she is controller. Before his lesson, Mr. Santisi sits down and thinks about how long his pair work activity should take, what instructions his students need, and how he can make them clear, how his students should sit, and what to do if a student doesn't have a partner. His role here is organizer. إذن هذا كان تصحيح ديال الامتحان الكتابي لمباراة التعليم بالتعاقد. ما عطيتش تعليل للأجوبة حيت غادي يطول الفيديو بزاف وبالتالي غادي يكون ممل. دونك اللي بغى يستفسر على الجواب ديال شي سؤال يخلي لي كومونتير وغادي نجاوبو ان شاء الله. الامتحان ما كان صعيب بزاف ولكن الوقت ما كانش كافي حسب القول ديال معظم المشتركين، واللي بغيت نقول لكم دابا هو ما تضيعوش الوقت في التذمر، فالامتحان إلا كان صعيب فهو صعيب على كل شيء، وبالتالي إذا عمت هانت. اللي خاصك دير دابا هو تجمع النقاط ديالك وتعطي نقطة تقديرية للرايتين على حسب اش كتبتي. إلا كانت النقطة المحصل عليها 40 على 100 أو أكثر فأنت عندك أمل كبير أنك تنجح. ما تضيعش الوقت، وجد للشفاوي، ولا ما حالفكش لحد هذا العام فما خسرتي والو، بدا تحضر العام الجاي ان شاء الله. ولكن الا ضيعتي الوقت وبالتالي نجحتي في الكتابي فما غاديش يكون عندك الوقت باش توجد راسك للشفاوي. اللي عجبو هاد لا فيديو بغاني نحط دروس اللي كتشرح الانجليش ديداكتيكس بطريقه سهله ومبسطه، يضغط على زر لايك ويشترك في القناه ويخلي لي كومونتير في اسفل الفيديو. والسلام عليكم.